Do you have any intention to marry Mr. Onassis?
Oh, those are not questions to...
Jackie Kennedy, America's former First Lady, became the second Mrs. Aristotle Onassis.
In 1968, Onassis married Jacqueline Kennedy. Not that anything could have stayed hidden. Newspapers, radio, everyone was talking. She didn't cry. She didn't say anything publicly. The people around her were careful. Nobody said his name. But some names are like that. The more you don't say them, the more they're there. I think Callas, during that period, wasn't grieving. She was doing something else. She was trying to dig Onassis out of her life, remove him completely. That's when Pasolini came to her. He wanted her to play Medea. Callas barely hesitated. Think about that reaction. Because she knew exactly who Medea was. On the operatic stage, she was practically the person who pushed Medea back to the center of the world. So who is Medea? A woman who betrayed her father for a man, left her homeland, burned every bridge behind her, made him a hero. And then, he married someone else for power. Easy to call her crazy, right? But that's not how Callas saw it. She lectured about Medea at Juilliard, in detail. She said, Medea is ruthless, yes, but she is also a woman who loved. There's one aria, she said, that is Medea's first and last chance to show tenderness and love in the entire opera. Sit with that for a second. What does it tell you? It tells you Medea didn't start out broken. She had love. She had a soft place. That's exactly what makes everything after it so devastating. You can't be truly betrayed if you never truly loved. You can't be shattered if you had nothing to break. And when Callas talked about Medea, she didn't just talk about emotion. She talked about breath, line, tempo, when not to spend your voice too early. Don't come out at full intensity from the start, she said. That's rigid. There's a duet coming, heavier scenes ahead. You have to save something. You see, her control over Medea was technical. In opera, Medea was something she built, note by note, breath by breath. So when Pasolini said the word Medea, Callas didn't hear a film roll. She heard a mirror. She heard a rope. A mirror that showed her own situation. A woman who was betrayed. A woman who refused to be written as pitiful. A rope she thought she could grab and pull herself out of that place. That abandoned woman place. She probably thought, I'll show you I'm not finished. Don't write my ending yet. But the rope didn't hold. Why? The problem was Pasolini himself. His work is good, but nobody could understand it. You sit in a theater for 2 hours, walk out, and your first reaction isn't awe, it's confusion. Maybe even anger. That specific feeling of having your intelligence challenged and coming up empty. A director like that couldn't give Callas what she needed. What did she need? A triumph. Proof to the world that she could stand back up, enter a new field, and win. What Pasolini gave her was a piece of art that most people couldn't decode. And notice this. Pasolini was obsessed with filming Callas's face. Extreme close-ups, constantly. Is that flattering? Honestly, no. Nobody's face holds up under that kind of scrutiny. But Callas went along with it. In going along with it, she stopped being Medea. Because on the subject of Medea, who knew more? Callas did. Pasolini was a crossover director. Could his understanding of this character run deeper than hers? No. But she didn't hold her ground. That's the first reason she failed. The second reason. Callas was someone who demanded perfection from herself. Any small failure became total failure in her mind. But crossing into film, who succeeds on their first try? This not working out was always likely, but she used it immediately to destroy herself, which tells you her inner foundation wasn't as solid as it looked. And the third reason, the deepest one. She was using this film to push Onassis down. Push down the memory, push down the name. But pushing something down is not the same as letting it go. The harder you push, the more it's still there. Then Onassis actually came back. She didn't want to see him, but he stood outside and made noise, threatened to break down the door. He knew exactly how to handle her. Callas cared about dignity, so he used her dignity against her. That's not love, that's leverage. That's a grown man throwing a tantrum because he knows it works. She let him in. They had dinner. She was restless the whole time, petting her dog, putting it down, picking it up again. Then she went and got photos from the Medea shoot, showed them to him, told him about the set. Think about that gesture. She was probably trying to prove, look, I have a new life without you. But the fact that she needed to show him, that says everything. What Onassis took from Callas wasn't just love. I mean it, not just love. He destabilized her judgment, her dignity, her confidence. He forced open a door in her world and made her believe his world, the yachts, the money, the power, was more real than hers. And she came down from the altar of Callas, but she didn't land on her own ground. She fell into his definition of her. That's not freedom. That's just a different cage. When he left for the last time, Callas ended up in the hospital. The outside world said she collapsed, said she tried to kill herself. Whether that's true, at this point, it almost doesn't matter. What matters is that the public wrote her back into the old story. Abandoned woman, mistress, the one who lost. She had wanted to become the woman who drove away in the dragon chariot and never looked back. She didn't. That's the most terrifying thing about Medea. She had already decided. She wasn't waiting for Jason to give her an answer. Callas was still waiting. She wore the costume, ran barefoot under the burning sun, stood in front of real flames, and did the scene again and again. She gave 120%. And at the premiere, the audience clapped politely and went to dinner. That's crueler than being attacked. Pasolini gave her a film, gave her close-ups, gave her a mythological shell. But she needed a way out. She grabbed Medea, but Medea didn't grab her. The real Callas Medea was never in that film. Where was it? In the opera. In her breath, her line, her tempo, her control. Tomorrow we go back there, to hear why the operatic Medea worked and the cinematic one didn't.